Hey guys, nice to see you. Nice to meet everybody I haven't met before. Quick intro. I manage the day-to-day of Benson Capital Partners, which is a VC fund started by Gail Benson. We focus on late seed to early Series A investments across the Gulf South, and certainly here in New Orleans specifically. I'm based in New Orleans. Um, we typically write checks into businesses that are kind of like post science projects in the most loving way. But a lot of what I do too is try to help folks in our ecosystem grow their companies and get to the size where we're hopefully investing. Um,
Great.
so yeah, really great to meet everybody. More than happy to answer any questions.
Great.
Um,
I guess my first question for you, Caroline, is when you are looking at decks, like I'm sure you get tons and tons of them. What is like, do you have any formula or is there something that catches your eye that you go, oh, wait, I should pay more attention to this, or I want a meeting with this founder if you've never heard of it before and it's literally just a deck in your email box?
Yeah, totally. My number one advice is the like in all social interactions, like the warmer of an intro that you can figure out with someone, the better. So always trying to kind of figure out like how to do something warmer than just a deck in an inbox is beneficial. I actually find that you, in the same way of an elevator pitch, you want to make it super clear and concise of what you are building and what the opportunity is in as early as possible. You want to remember that a deck is being seen in a vacuum, and it doesn't necessarily need to be like a story prose like you do in high school. Like getting to the point and making it really clear, like even on the first page in a one sentence explainer, like what your business is helpful. And then also accompanying that deck with like getting a tight 3 or 4 sentences in an email block where you can really explain what your company is, where you are stage wise, what is the big opportunity, and what traction you have. Um, Having that in a clear cut way, like investors are lazy or busy or however you want to call it. So kind of spoon feeding is the name of the game.
And then as far as like industries or like, I mean, I know Benson Capital has maybe specific focuses, but like, what are you seeing, like just as seeing all this deal flow, what are you seeing as like the exciting things that people are investing in or maybe taking bigger chances than they would? Are there particular industries? I know AI pops up, but I'm kind of curious what you're hearing.
Yeah, AI is like the obvious answer today. There are trends in investments, like there are trends in anything. So in the same way that NFTs and crypto was really trendy, and there's now interest in green kind of investments too, which is a win. But yes, everybody's trying to answer like how does AI fit into their portfolio? So being able to articulate how you're going to embed or understand AI like in the changing world that we're in, like that's an important kind of element.
So
Which doesn't necessarily mean just putting AI next to everything.
yeah, that was my next question was like, what does that mean? I was just on a pitch a second ago and I literally saw over a week, they changed what they were looking for from like whatever, in various different fintech to like AI. And on the pitch, I was trying to figure out what the investor really meant by AI. And so I'm kind of curious when you have, and let's even talk more generally of like when you're an investor who is going to invest in some kind of trend or hype wave, like what are you really looking for? Are you looking for the technology? Are you looking for just like people in the know? Like what is it?
Yeah, this doesn't fully answer the question, but an important reminder for founders is like you're not searching for no's, like you're searching for one yes, right? And every investor is different and has different criteria, which can kind of feel like a black box. Like I have investment parameters and I'm trying to determine if Becca's company fits within this little circle. What Becca's role should be is really quickly asking questions to the investors to realize if she's in the circle or not. Because if she's not, the likelihood is it doesn't matter how great she is as a person, like it probably is not going to fit. And every investor's circle is different. Like we also are speaking to LPs, like we have a thesis, et cetera, et cetera. So like remembering that you're just searching for a yes, not searching for no's, and like really targeting, like I'm not going to reach out to just random investors. Like I'm going to try to figure out who fits for me.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess my like final kind of like rapid fire question is around like double bottom line companies. We got to know each other, I think through Occlusively, because I saw that you all invested in that, and it's a company that is both like doing good and making money. And I'm kind of curious, like what your investment thesis on double bottom line companies are. That's what we're all trying to make here. Um, like how where's the balance of like I want to do good versus make money? Where's the balance between this is a good for-profit idea but I'll never make or a good nonprofit idea but it'll never become a for-profit? Like when you're assessing a double bottom line company,
Yeah.
how do you
So
find
for us, yeah. So for us specifically, everybody's different. For us specifically, like our 1, 2, and 3 commitment to our LPs is generating a return. So an investment has to generate a return. We can't justify a do good investment that has a smaller return threshold. So like that has to work for us. But we're obviously the underlying reason we're doing this is to build our ecosystem here and do good. So we also feel like inherently by investing in companies here, like it grows the pie. Great. The other way that you think about green or do good investments is like they PR is easier. That's great. It's easier to there's M&A pressures for buyers to be buying do good businesses. So like that's a win. Like thinking about how your do good business makes you a more attractive investment is like an interesting way of pushing it. So like Inclusively is an HR recruiting platform for disability candidates. And they are a great PR story. We're able to get them on the Today Show. Check. They are able to sell into Fortune 100 companies because it checks their D&I box and it's doing good. Like check. LinkedIn has a big focus on diversity and inclusion. So like they could be a buyer for them, like check. And because of that, like great, Inclusively is doing good. And it also makes them a good investment.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I guess the final question I'll ask is around because you say like there's like a revenue threshold that you're looking for, and you know where you're at where Benson Capital is it like is there a magic number like $1 million ARR? And ARR for those who don't know is like the annual recurring revenue. That's what you can show that you're basically making. Is there a number that folks can target? I know me personally, like I build cash flow analyses and I hear lots of different numbers, but what's the number that you're looking at?
Yeah, there's no magic number necessarily. Part of that is because we're industry agnostic, and so every industry is different. Like you could be a biotech company that sells for $1 zillion without ever making a dollar. That's a lot different than like a consumer platform where like you're having to go out and like fish every single week. What I would say is for us, we're looking for investors are all like it's a weighing of risk. Like earlier investors are willing to take more risk, and because of that, they need a higher potential return. Investors coming down the line like want to decrease risk as much as possible. And decreasing risk comes from being able to say, like, okay, I know that if I start pouring money on this, customers will come out. And that comes from traction and comes from data. So, like, what we're more interested in is okay, is there enough data, retention data, cohort data to be able to show, like, okay, I know that I can tell you, investor, that if you give me $1, I know that dollar can turn into $3 because of XYZ, because we have all this data of what people have done in the past.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. Yeah. And it's fun to put investors on the spot about the money that they're looking for because so often I've been on the other end of investors trying to put me on the spot about how much money I'm actually going to make. Um, I wanted to turn it over. So like hopefully we continue this conversation. But like looking at all sorts of different quick pitch decks pretty quickly, And it's pretty cool, the group that we have, because they represent all sorts of folks on different parts of the founder journey, and this entire group is for that. It's literally just for founders. It's not for seed founders or late stage founders. So I want to turn it over to you all, and I would love to start, Kaj, with your work, because you just won a pitch competition, and I think that your project is kind of on that, like, raising money, having money coming into the bank, and doing good at the same time. So Kaj, I'm gonna put you on the spotlight here, if you don't mind, and you could share your screen, or just wrap it, whatever you want to do. The spotlight is yours now. And then, so if you wouldn't mind, I'm gonna cut you off at around, let's say, 4 minutes and 20 seconds, because my daughter was born on 420. And then we'll like turn it to Caroline, and I'll literally ask the question that I'm about to ask, which is like, what do you think? So Kaj, feel free to share your screen or get going. It's 1:27. All you.
All right. Hey, Caroline, how's it going? So,
Hey.
we are, sorry about my cat in the background. We are Scribe, and we are dealing with AI-assisted clinical documentation. So a few weeks ago, an 8-year-old girl was in a multi-vehicular accident in central Louisiana. The airbags deployed, and when the EMTs arrived, the fire department was already performing CPR. She kept bleeding out for years. The EMTs rushed her to the hospital. They communicated to the ER doctor. And then the face-to-face correspondence with the ER nurse lasted like a few minutes. So after their shift, the EMTs had to relive the incident. They painstakingly entered all the patient and information into the management software. They manually entered every detail late into the night after the calls happened. And what this does is have them manually enter stuff, and there's a 43% burnout rate and a 39% dropout rate between EMTs in this country. That is a first line between saving lives and getting them to the hospital. So this is what they do. They listen to the patient. They get the patient data, which you see in the cloud here, and then they go to the ambulance, and then they enter it, which is symbolized by the yellow laptop, and then they manually enter all that data. So what we're trying to do here at Scribe is to listen to the patient medic interaction and have a device that encrypts it, sends it to the back end, and automatically generate reports, which means less manual data entering, only a human in the loop approach where they just have the report for themselves and they can just put it in there and get it out. So, but what that also means in terms of that 8-year-old is they're transmitting more data second by second to the hospital, which is not possible now, and we can do that right now. So less burnout means more lives saved. Time saved also means better resource utilization for EMS companies, where EMTs are able to go on more calls. So right now we have no competition among EMTs, but the clock is ticking, and there's a lot of people in the physician space who could be here, but they're not here because the EMT space is fundamentally different. So what will Scribe look like at scale? Every EMS agency in every state in America is a market, and we have no competition. So again, this whole product, what it does is you listen to the conversation between patients and medics, and then you record it with the device that we're making. It encrypts it. So if the device falls off, there's no issue. It pulls the Wi-Fi, it sends it to the back end, it decrypts it, and then sends the report to the patient management software. So basically, what that means is more 8-year-old lives saved. And I invite you to be a part of it. That was it.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you for sharing. What I'm going to try to do with all these is maybe give like feedback and say it more in a general way that can be like insights for everybody. So, okay, as I mentioned, a deck in an ideal world is, in an ideal scenario, if you're pitching a founder, if you're pitching an investor, the best way that it goes is if you can feel like it's kind of a conversation. And I'm not saying that that's what you were supposed to just do, but like do it in a way that like you don't even need a deck, and like you can be pulling it up if you have interesting insights to talk through. So because of that, your deck, you want to be able to have kind of as a standalone document. And like, for instance, if you and I had just talked and I'm like, awesome, I want to tell my investment committee about it. I'm going to attach your deck to my agenda for my investment committee, which means they're all going to read your deck without ever meeting you. And so because of that, you want to make sure that the deck works on a standalone. Like the deck that you just went through, it was great as like a counterpart to hearing your voice, but because it doesn't have any words, like it won't work on a standalone basis. So you want to make sure that you have a good level of like punchy, easy to digest words that are really clear. And if like you got hit by a bus and like had an investor meeting, you're like, oh, that's fine. They're just going to see this deck. That gets into like an ideal like first page, even on your front, like being super clear of what it means. A lot of times for an early deck like this, like being very clear, like one page of like what the problem is. Being able to quantify things, like quantify, okay, burnout, great. And like, what does that cost healthcare agencies? Like, what does that cost hospitals? How big of a problem is this that like the Ostners of the world are trying to solve? And then also like quantify what the TAM is. Like, okay, how big is this market? How much money is being spent on things like this? Okay, there's not a software tool. So like, okay, what is the market opportunity of how large this can be? Even quantifying like, okay, how many minutes saved is this? And that could get into like, okay, well, this is nurse practitioners and they make $100 an hour billable. So like that is XYZ per institution. Like this is a big money saving. Getting into like, is this a revenue generator for a customer? Or is this an expense reducer for a customer? Other things, yeah, being clear with words. It's always like a little, you want to be careful when you say there's no competitors to things. Saying like there's status quo as the competitor, sometimes a little better. Or like, I have a feeling there is software. People aren't putting this in their notebook. Like it's going into Epic or something. Sounds like there's probably no AI competitors. So that can be sometimes like a little chart that shows like you're a zillion times better than everybody else. And then also being clear, like what your traction is. Like, is this a idea? Is this built? Like, does this have customers? And then usually a last page with an ask is great. Like, okay, being very clear, like I'm raising X amount of money and that X amount of money is going to get me to Y.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Caroline, and thanks, Kaj. Next up is going to be Alex and Becca, Prescription Joy. Oops. Let me see. I can make you spotlight. Let's see. Replace the spotlight. Here we go. And you are both in the spotlight. Feel free to share your screen or just talk. You have about 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Okay, here comes a screen at you. Here comes my document at me. Okay.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. Hello there. My name is Alex Smith.
And I'm Becca Chapman, and we are co-founders of Prescription Joy,
A healthcare clowning nonprofit here in New Orleans.
And because videos speak louder than words, here's an image of our work at a glance.
This
What is this?
This is my friend Chicken Dinner. That's his dinner bell. You want to try
You're getting it away?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have a very good What a great howl. Oh, can we howl together on 3? 1, 2, 3. Ow!
Oh my God.
You're such a great wolf. Who knew? Whoop, don't let it play again. There we go.
So our work is to help mitigate medical trauma for children in hospitals. And we do this in 2 locations, New Orleans Women and Children's, We do it there too. We do it in Children's Hospital New Orleans and also Ochsner's Hospital for Children. And just to back that up with some facts, in 2019, 52 million children in the US were hospitalized. And when children are hospitalized, they do have lasting anxiety, stress, and especially loneliness, because most parents need to leave their child to go back to work to help support the rest of the family, to help with bills, all of those things. So children often left in the hands of medical staff who are incredible, but are no replacement for the connection and the play of siblings, family, and friends.
And to talk about the connection between siblings, family, and friends, laughter and human connection help transform a person's emotional state. I mean, we have research, everybody has seen research. Laughter can reduce hospital trauma, and it has positive physical effects, oxygen intake, stimulation of all the muscles, hearts included, it takes to giggle or connect, and it engages relaxation. The difference is humanization. We are there to treat the healthy part of the patient, that soul, that mind, that whatever you're going to call it. We turn tears of sadness into those of laughter often. Ask our hospitals. It's something that they can attest to.
And we are also more than laughter. A lot of the times the assumption is, oh, you're coming in to make someone smile. But actually what our job is to go and relieve tension. And sometimes that relief of tension can be laughter. Sometimes it's allowing a patient to cry. Sometimes it's allowing a patient to express aggression. This is why we're all trauma informed at Prescription Joy. So we help patients express a wide range of emotions, especially healthy aggression, because like I said, kids are pent up. That's energy pent up in their body and it needs to be let out. And sometimes squeezing a little rubber chicken slowly can allow space for that. We also help with gamifying PT exercises. There was once a child that needed to move one of their hands and they didn't want to because it was too challenging. So we put a finger puppet on that child's hand and we got her to play with the hand that needed the work.
And this work is, of course, more than just for patients. It's for family and it's for staff. We have seen a wonderful boost in staff morale. One of my favorite staff members at Children's, every time they see us, we'll just start dancing out of nowhere. And they're, oh, I got to bring the uke out. We're going to dance. And we'll pull other people into a dance in the middle of the hallways. And we always end up having a really great connection. And that's on pretty much every floor. There's people who see us light up, know that they can use us, know that they can get a little bit of connection from us as well. This also goes with distracting from necessary medical procedures. A couple of times we've been pulled over by nurses or other clinicians. Hey, I have to give a shot. Can you help? And that's either distracting from it or enhancing it so that it's not so scary and not so challenging. So we do a lot of that work as well.
Yes, and also in near end of life, Prescription Joy members have been able to come in and support the family in the grief of nearing end of life for their child.
Measuring success, the numbers, everybody loves numbers. Well, we actually do get to quantify some of our work, even though a lot of it is qualitative. We do our visit reports that can tell you the number of people that we've gotten to see, the number of connections we've ever to have. We have a meter on engagement of rooms. Like, okay, they started at a 1, but when we left, they were at like a 6. Still a little bit subjective, but the objectivity of it is really great to see. You can see here the number of patients that we see monthly just in our current program, number of staff members, number of family members. Our eventual goal, of course, is visit both hospitals 3 or 4 times a week for a 4-hour day chunk, which is one of our big goals. And you'll just see these numbers, quadruple or more as we're able to make all of those contacts.
We could essentially help over 3,000 children if we were able to, if Prescription Joy members were able to be in hospitals for 4 days a week.
Becca, will you read this for us?
Sure. This is a quote from a child we got to work with at Children's Hospital. Prescription Joy, you made my day so much better. I was feeling so upset that day because I was in the hospital bed. That was the best day ever because of y'all. I wish y'all could be here every day because everyone needs to meet amazing people, y'all like y'all. I had such a great time because of you two. You're the funniest people ever. Thank you so much for making the day so much better. And just to clarify, this is not just Alex and I. This is a team of 9 others. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just
not
talking about just
right. Breezing through our current programs, we have hospital visits, women and children shelter visits, all of these different locations that we're able to go to. We've been fortunate enough to be Gambit's 40 under 40, 20 under 20 would be quite 40 under 40 in 2022, and we're about to be doing a presentation at the Hospice and Palliative Care Conference in July. So we've really gotten to enjoy some wonderful successes with this kind of work. Sustainability, Becca, do you want to grab this bad boy?
Sure, absolutely. So we believe in the three-tiered stool of diverse funds. We have grants, hospitals contribute as well, and donors. And that just kind of, we like the idea that the entire community supports this work.
Yeah, and our aim, of course, is to, adapt, grow. This model can grow pretty exponentially, as has been seen by a lot of organizations that do this same work in all over the US, all over Europe, and all over Canada. That's the value of an investment, because that can help us grow exponentially. And that is our runaway pitch for our pitch deck for Prescription Joy.
Thank you guys. I love House Hunters International, and they have an episode where someone is a hospital clown in Australia. So I'm very familiar with the model.
Oh, good. So few people know what the work is. They hear clown and they go, no.
Oh, wow. How can I look this up?
So thank you for sharing. Great pitch. The couple like feedback questions, it's not clear. Well, and I guess we'll all be here pitching for different things. Like, would love to hear very clearly if it's a for-profit or not-for-profit business, just given what you guys are doing and what the ask is. So getting into like, okay, if you're using their stack, you're like pitching something like, okay, what are we pitching? What's the ask? Also getting into like kind of the elevator pitch of speed. You're doing something really important and special, and it's funny that you say people don't get it quickly. Like I think with the video, like people probably get it pretty fast. So like I think you could spend a lot less time talking through like what this means, getting into like, okay, this is great, we're impacting people's lives, check, check, check. It's more than just laughter or trauma, like that's important, check. And then getting into spending more time of like, okay, what are your goals? Like, are you looking to have this in every hospital in New Orleans, in Louisiana, in America? Like, are you looking to integrate with the hospitals? Like getting into like what the goal and what the ask is in a really clear way. Because right now, like I leave and I'm like, yeah, this is great. I would love this. Cool. But like, now what? Like, what are you looking to get out of me? Kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Thank you all. So the next one that I'm going to throw up, mostly because we have a cranky baby and I want to make sure that it doesn't start yelling in a little bit, is my wife, Miss Grace Booth. If that's okay.
All right.
Hold on 1 second, Grace. I'm just putting you in the spot.
Okay, cool. Right. Let me share my screen.
Here you come. Add the spotlight. Great.
Starting right now, you have lots of Grace. Okay. Get set up. Let's see. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. All right, this is a first pitch, so I'm gonna go for it. Blake, cut me off if I'm over 4 minutes. I'll try to keep it short. This is a project called This is a project on portraying complex female characters in theater and film. It's starting with a project called Possessed, the Victoria Woodhull Project. Now, Victoria Woodhull is the first woman who ran for president in 1872. She's contemporaries with Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, but very few people have heard of her. And that's because she was super controversial. And she had a rags to riches story, born in rural Ohio to a poor family whose father was in and out of jail. And she had a mentally unstable mother. Her idealism on marriage reform ostracized her from certain circles. She was not afraid of making enemies, and she was not simple and very relatable on a human level. My statement of purpose with this project / company is that complex storytelling inspires identification and imagination. This directly leads to civic action by individuals. So the problem that I'm tackling here is that popular media ignores the complexity of female leaders, especially in comparison to the ways that it portrays male leaders. Media heavily influences societal understanding of what is acceptable, what is possible, and who you have to be in order to be in a leadership role. A metric on this is that only 3 out of 24 titles feature complex female characters when you just do a basic Google search on film female leaders. I want to give an example of an incredible Brazilian theater practitioner and political activist named Augusto Boal, who started doing work in the 70s, and he talks about theater and performance as a rehearsal for reality. So he worked with popular education movements. He used theater and storytelling to work with sort of underserved demographics to empower them to make changes in their lives. So he would use theater in instances of civil war protests, dialogues with oppressive employers and leaders, and he would literally use theater to rehearse these situations and have people take control in practice situations that they could then transfer to real life situations. He ran for city councilor in Rio de Janeiro in '92 as a theatrical act, and was like actually then elected and kind of started making laws as someone who had been listening to the people and also was a theater practitioner. So this really had a direct impact on politics. So the solution to this problem of lack of complex representation is to depict more complex characters in popular media. This depiction causes stronger identification with leaders by underrepresented demographics. This idea that anyone can become great, but we need those role models. So the 5-year goal of this venture is to premiere 5 productions that showcase complex characterization of female leaders. So the year 1 would be this Victoria Woodhull play. And then year 2 through 5 would be to annually introduce a new work with a complex intersectional female character. And through this to collaborate with female playwrights, directors, designers, and producers so that there's a direct impact benefiting female theater makers. The team is myself, Grace Bertuccelli-Booth. I'm a director and a writer. I have a degree in ensemble devising, which is creating original theatrical works. I have 12 years of experience in producing original work, and especially doing work that does have social benefit and social correlation combined with the art itself. The other part of this team is Uplift Physical Theater. This company is based in multiple states around the US and has been producing work since 2012, original work, and they've toured numerous works nationally and internationally. So similar models are Participant Media. This is a film company whose revenue is 136.1 million. So that's a really big version, kind of like dream model of this. Women's Project Theater, whose revenue is 1 million. And Brava for Women in the Arts, which is a San Francisco-based company whose revenue is 2.52 million. And all 3 of these companies do a combination of donations and grants, programming and events, and ticket sales. So this is what I'm looking at. So our income goal for the first year, it would be 100K. Second year would be 150,000, and then year 3 through 5, moving up to 250 to 500K. And the donation, grant, ticket sales, and fundraising events are right here in terms of what we'd be looking at for that fundraising that is similar to the organizations I mentioned before. And I'll end with a quote by Victoria Woodhull: "I shall not change my course because those who assume to be better than I desire it." Controversial and unafraid. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I'm so excited to look up Victoria Woodhull. Sounds like my kind of gal. Great job. the major call outs that were great were you had a clear page with the problem, you had a clear page with the solution. Those are like two great back and forths, especially in an early stage of like making it super clear. The other great thing that you had that we haven't seen yet is a team page. Like when you're an investor or anybody like investing in something, especially when it's like an idea, like it is a napkin. So like you are investing in the people. So like giving an opportunity to be able to talk about like why you is perfect. Like I would not be well suited to like start a theater company, but like your background is different than mine. So that's awesome. I've mentioned this before, like adding an ask at the end of like, okay, like why are we here? The other thing that I would say here is like the first page, like it felt like in the beginning that this was like you were pitching Victoria. And then by the end, you're like, oh, wait, no, you're pitching, I think, building a theater company to promote complex women characters. And so I would maybe which I think is great. And so what I would almost do is like restructure it, like making it really clear in the first page, like that's what I'm building. And then you can then get into problem solution and like, okay, your plan for your year one, like your first project is Victoria. And then you can kind of get into like, that's why it's the solution and all the stuff that you said of like why she's great. I think that's super cool. But just making it really clear, like you have a bigger picture goal of making this a theater company and Victoria is the first project.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. The next one.
Like, can I run to the restroom really quick?
Yes.
I'll be right.
Totally. Thank you. While Caroline is running to the restroom, it's okay. I got her. You can look at my baby. And any feedback, anything rolling for everybody? Any big comments or anything? Let me pull. Let's see.
I would just say certainly the whole idea of finding competition, even if it's the status quo, was a good distinction. Certainly making the pitch conversation was great advice in general, but it was great to hear that that was the advice, right? And the idea that the deck needs to be its own standalone document for investment purposes because you're not going to be pitching necessarily to the check writer. Good thing to be mindful of.
Now that Caroline seems to be back and Johnny seems to have the floor, Johnny, would you be cool to pitch? You want to do your thing?
Sure, let's do it.
All right.
Let's see what we get out here. Okay, so Reef Buds is an artificial habitat technology developed in the Philippines. It's capable of resurrecting marine dead zones, and they've been dropping them in the water continuously since 2007. And we were able to get a global exclusive sub-license to bring this technology to the Gulf and the rest of the world. Reef buds were created in response to blast fishing primarily, which is a man-made example of how we mess up our ecosystems. They literally would dynamite with homemade explosives coral reefs, which killed the coral reef, created dead zones. It allowed them to catch fish, but it also created significant shoreline emergencies. So while we don't have coral reefs, we do have dead zones, and we do have a massive shoreline emergency. These are the gentlemen that invented reef buds, the late Dr. Harold Kremnitz and Benji Tayag. They won a grant from the World Bank in 2006, which funded their first pilot in a marine dead zone in the Philippines in early 2007. The results were tremendous. The dead zone was resurrected from the bottom up because this technology was able to regrow microalgae on its surface within 24 to 72 hours, which become the building block or the essential food source for the beginning of an ecosystem restoration. Later, they were brought to a different part of the Philippines in 2007, an area that was not fit for coral recruitment because it was so polluted. And again, this restored the ecosystem. Here in the Gulf, in Louisiana, we have a major dead zone, the second largest on Earth. That has a deleterious effect on two of our largest seafood commodities, shrimp and oysters, because as you can imagine, they can't swim away from the dead zones. And as in the Philippines, the dead zone is a man-made, unnatural disaster. Unfortunately, the way that we try to address that problem now is insufficient. The other major problem that we have is we're losing a football field of land every 90 minutes from the coast of Louisiana. This reef bud technology has the capacity to address land loss and to address dead zones. As I mentioned, it grows life very rapidly. It is a plant-based structure made out of coconut husk in the Philippines. It will be made out of sugarcane bagasse here in Louisiana, which means that it has a negative carbon footprint. It's also capable of CO2 sequestering. It is excellent at recruiting natural coral spawn, oyster spat, and more, which concrete, which is primarily what is going in the water, is not good at doing. It's also 3D printable, and it's suitable for coastal protection and coastal restoration applications beyond what we will discuss today. What can reef buds do for Louisiana? 3D printed reef buds can be made into cultivation pots for mangrove trees, which can assist with the land loss issue while also sequestering CO2. Mangrove trees are the top trees in the world for sequestering CO2. They also provide flooding protection and nurseries for wildlife. Additionally, we would like to deploy subsea data collection in order to enhance the viability of the fish, oysters, and shrimp that are dying in our dead zones, in effect, resurrecting dead zones here in Louisiana. Market size and validation. The global impact of dead zones is 2.4 billion, while the estimated service value of mangrove trees, primarily due to their ability to sequester CO2, but also because of their flood protection quality, is nearly 3 trillion. The SAM, NOAA estimates that the Gulf dead zone cost us about $82 million per year. And according to research, the loss of mangrove forest, which Louisiana has lost more than any other state in the country, costs between $6 and $42 billion each year due to increased flood risk and CO2 emissions. Our SOM, around $30 million. We would like to deploy the patented reef bud solution, which is uniquely suited for coastal protection and restoration projects all throughout the Gulf of Mexico and then beyond. Again, Louisiana has the second largest dead zone on Earth. We're losing we're losing a football field of land every 90 minutes. And we're projected to spend over $50 billion just in the state of Louisiana over the next 50 years. Here's our roadmap. Essentially, we want to start dropping projects in the water by this fall and really start taking orders from people who would like to use our material by the winter. The secret sauce is the electrostatic field on the surface of our material. Eventually, we want to take that electrostatic field and apply it to any material and more beyond that. Our ask is we want to raise up to $1 million pre-money. We've secured the global sub-license. We currently have collaboration and support from the Ag Center at LSU, ARCOS, Deep Blue Institute, Additive Innovators, the Tulane Innovation Institute, GNO Inc., and others. The money will fund the Louisiana-based reef buds manufacturing. We don't want to manufacture these things in the Philippines any longer. And certifications to receive government contracts, as well as our data-informed go-to-market execution. This is the team, myself, Shane the Brain, Matt Bernier, who is an expert in dropping reef buds illegally in the Gulf of Mexico and Lake Pontchartrain, and the inventor, or one of the co-inventors, Benji Tayag. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. What a cool product. I think you did a great job. You had very much down the verbal, like one sentence in the beginning, which isn't on the deck. So like writing down whatever is the automatic thing that comes out of your mouth as the first sentence, like I think that would be a win. You said at one point, like the business is looking to resurrect dead zones in Louisiana. Like that could be a tagline too. It almost starting with like what you guys are looking to do for the business and then getting into like you found this technology that you're sub-licensing, like they've done this in the Philippines and you're looking to do it here. Like that may be a clear-cut way of articulating it. You want to dive in at some point of like what the sub-license means, because like that's always going to be a question or a flag of like, okay, like what do you have a license over? Or is there additional tech that needs to be done to check if you can use sugar cane? Like getting into those little nuances. Also getting into like how the business model works. Like, are you looking to manufacture these and like put them in the ground, or are you looking to sell this to somebody else that's going to do it? Like just spending a little bit of time on how you envision it working. I'm seeing what other things I said. Yeah, on the Philippines pages, like just making it clear kind of in writing, like this has worked in the Philippines and you're bringing this to the rest of the world. Are the goals to do this as Louisiana or kind of across the board? Like what license do you have?
It's global. We basically, the license says that we can deploy this anywhere in the world for profit, including Southeast Asia, where they're at. And if there's any innovations beyond the technology, the underlying technology, we own 100% of it. And basically, we just owe them a small royalty for any gross profits being generated from utilizing their technology.
Got it. Cool. The only other small comment on your last page, you are using the term pre-money, where I think I would probably use the term pre-revenue. That's like a really small nit. But I would be talking about like you guys are a pre-revenue business. Pre-money usually talks about like your valuation if it's the numbers of pre-money or post-money.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm one of the worst people at like holding people to time, so forgive me that we're gonna have to a few projects probably aren't gonna make it, but we do have this channel after the fact. I want to next let's bring up centered folks. Let's see. I'm gonna spotlight you here. Spotlight and Harry. Are you here? Great.
All right, y'all. Cool. Hey, Caroline. Here with Brandon and Andrew, and we are the Centered team. Cool. Awesome. So we are Centered, and we are building fintech for the future of the neighborhood. So we're a tech. Cool. Oh, it just shifted. Can we see? Sweet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are Centered. We are building fintech for the future of the neighborhood. And so we are building a tech company, and we are doing it with people and the places that matter to them. Right. So as cities change, right, owning a home or a place of business is impossible for too many people. It would be harder to state something more obvious than this statement, right? But I think the question is why, right? Why is this hard? Why is this today? And I guess one specific thing, we are focused on cities, right? That's kind of the descriptor there that really matters in terms of why this is so impossible. So, a multitude of factors, right? So we've lumped the first one into rising cost of ownership, right? So whether that's, increasing property taxes, insurance costs, as we know well, keeping up with deferred maintenance, right? There's the cost side for the owners themselves, right? Then when we take sort of one step above and think about, okay, what are the other pressures? We have that evolving taste in neighborhoods, right? So this is sort of the gentrification action, right? Folks want to live in places where they, which is new to their interests, and that therefore is driving up the cost, of those properties. And then third, sort of what enables all of this are recent advances in access to property data, right? So like, as a consumer, you're familiar with Zillow, but then you shift over and you think about, okay, what do real estate investors use? Things like Crexi and PropStream, and like, if it's in a public record somewhere, there's a software tool that you can pay like $80 to $300 a month to get all that data today, right? And so this has really created the perfect storm for displacement in cities. So what do? We make it possible to actually own your home or small business location through these cycles of systemic change in the neighborhood, right? Well, that seems like a great goal, but like, how the heck do you do that, right? So here are the nuts and bolts of how we really do this, right? It's kind of two ways. One is we do this by optimizing the income potential of the property itself, right? And then we offer a financing platform to fund the property improvements. So here we sit in New Orleans, one of the most longstanding building forms is the double, right? The most self-subsidizing piece of real estate you could think of, right? I, grew up in Massachusetts. I'm from the city of Lowell, Mass, which is triple deckers, right? So like my dad's family, they bought one, they had two tenants that were the cousins, and that's subsidized, right? Now, back then, when all that happened, there were winners and losers because of the post-war sort of choices that were made about who could actually get into those properties as far as ownership, right? And so we think about the history of redlining and, certain neighborhoods that were either within that or out of it. And we trace that through the ability to build generational wealth off of those properties or not, right? And so we know that access to the financing, right? Could you get a VA loan back then to buy that property, right? Or can you get an FHA loan when that program started, right? So folks were in it or out of it, right? So we know making the most money off a property, like small multifamily, plus how do you finance it? Okay, well, we think that's the key, right? We're starting here in New Orleans, right? We know we've got about 125,000 units of owner-occupied housing. 37,500 are cost burdened, right? We know spending more than 30% of your income on housing. But within that, the target owner partners that we have are properties that could support income generation, right? So they either already are small multifamily or are zoned to be able to do some type of improvement to a property to start generating that income. So really what we're doing is we're taking the financing and intelligence tools that are usually available for real estate investors, and then we're turning around and enabling owner occupants to retain and build up the value of their generational assets with these tools. So one example we use is if you're a real estate investor who wants to fix and flip houses, right, and you identify a property and you can make a lot of money off that, you can go to your local real estate investor groups, you can get a hard money loan or some private financing and show how you're going to make money off that property. And you get that check through a very different underwriting process than what it looks like if you're a homeowner going to buy a property and you go to the bank, right? So we've got two products. The first is a financing platform with an underwriting app for this specialized property class. So what this does is it's a piece of software that looks at the property, where it is, how, what it can do, what all the different uses are, and how you can make money off that. So we start with the property, right? And then we look at the partner owner, which is the way that the process works if you're, going out there to get fix and flip money. Second, right, we enable owners to access that financing. So if you need, $100,000 to fix up your house so that you could make some money off of that back unit, we can fund that, right? We underwrite it differently. But then once you get in there, our ultimate goal is not to be, your financing partner, with this financing product for the rest of your life. Ultimately, if this is going to work, you need to have it replaced by the bank. So during that life cycle of the property, we have a AI-powered dashboard for owner occupants so that they can track their equity, look at the different options of how they can make money off their property, how they can save money, how they can implement solar, like different things to maximize the potential income. And so those are our two products. And we make money two ways, right? There's an upfront fee for capital access via the financing platform. So we connect owner partners with investors via our platform and get a fee for doing that. And then we also have a fee for the property dashboard, which allows you to stay connected with the financial picture of your property.
And Harry, you have about several slides left. I just want to kind of start to cut you off. So what's the most important thing that you can convey right now?
Absolutely. So we partner with owner partners. We're making it possible for, we think 10,000 in New Orleans, we think 100,000 in the Southeast. And we're doing it today, right? We have our first project. It's in Central City, New Orleans. We've deployed our first loan. We're in process on the second. And so we're getting going and we look forward to growing the business.
Great.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I would say this is another example of like, it's a clear, and you noted it, like, it's a clear problem that everybody knows. So like the benefit of that is like being really crisp of like, everybody knows it's hard to own a home. Like it's expensive to own a home, especially if you're not a real estate professional. Like,
Yep.
boom, that's the problem. And then being able to have time to like really dig into the solve. Getting really crisp and clear of like what the business model looks like in terms of like, are you a matchmaker of investors? Are you a bank in itself? Like, you have an underwriting tool. So like, are you guys taking underwriting risk? And then as part of that, like, okay, like how does it work to transfer over? What are going to be the typical terms of something like this? Like, are you transferring it over to the bank? Kind of what that looks like. Having a team page of like talking about like what your guys' backgrounds are, like I think that's important. Getting into traction, even earlier of like, look, we're doing this today. Getting into like, how are you doing it today? Like, is it in a beta? Which means like you're able to justify that like the tech's not maybe built and like you're doing it in a more duct tape way, which is fine. Or like you're like, so where are you on the product development map? Like, okay, no, we built this. People are using it, XYZ. Then getting into like, why start with New Orleans versus go more broadly? Like, do you need density in a market because investors need density? Could you turn it on and it be a national platform all of a sudden? Like getting into like how the business model plays together.
Yep.
That's awesome. And so we're hitting we're right at 12:12. And Caroline, would you have time for one more?
Yeah, I can do one more.
Okay, great. So Sam Birdsong, and I think Renee's with you. Sam Birdsong, why don't you take it away? Sam is the heart and soul of the Philosophers Group, so I'm glad that he is going to have a chance to share.
Good to hear.
Let's see, Sam, I'm going to make you spotlight right now.
Good. And then how do I share my screen?
You share your.
Oh,
Get back to the Zoom so you can share.
okay.
Okay. And then all you need to do is just.
Deny it?
Yeah, I know. So let's go to share. Okay. So you don't have anything that has Zoom
Just
opening.
click Zoom on that.
Okay. Okay, and then turn it on. And then put your password in.
I'm sorry about this.
Okay.
This is Sam's first time sharing on Zoom, so really excited.
I have to quit and reopen.
See you in 1
Just send
second.
it
Yeah,
to
you can quit and
someone.
reopen. It's okay. I mean, if it's okay with Caroline, I'll see you 1 second.
Yeah, or Blake, I think we have them all, right?
We do, yeah. I can also share it here. Let's see if I'm gonna try to pull it up. Oh, there they are again. Okay, cool. Of course, the last one is the one with the technical. All right, you good, Sam?
Hello.
Okay, now we're. There we go. And
There
just
you
do the
go. We
keynote.
got it.
Here we are.
Right. And I'll good. You don't have that many slides. I'll just say time is of essence with what you're doing.
Caroline, thank you so much for taking the time out and especially this extra time to look at our slide. This is just a great opportunity to learn how to do this better. So what we're talking about, I'm Sam Birdsong. This is Renee Benson, one of the co-founders. Also, Johnny James II is another co-founder who you've already met. The 504.com, where culture meets commerce. That's a quote from Leroy Brown. Culture meets commerce in an ecosystem of cultural partners. How we define cultural partners is anyone who serves, fosters, documents, and/or carries the culture forward. The problem space that we're dealing with is that current business models don't equitably reward cultural partners for their contributions to the revenue stream. Just from Google, last year, or in 2022, I believe, 17.53 million visitors, $10 billion spent. We don't know what percentage goes to cultural partners. But if we could get any portion of that 10 billion, even a percentage over percentage, that's a huge win. Our mission is to prove a sustainable business model that pays cultural partners 70% of revenue. Just to like visualize who a cultural partner might be. That's me with a camera. That's a picture I took of George Porter Jr. And then the 504.com would include all these people. This is actually a slide that I messed up, but right here is what I'm talking about. Photographers, people like my mentor, Steve Report, they take the photographs, they share it with the world. The musicians, artists, you know, they give the entertainment. That combination is what brings New Orleans to the world. The key components for our partnership would be a project funded by, in partnership with. So for example, I'm working on a project right now, our flagship project, which is called the Musicians Hierarchy of Needs. It's an oral history project right now in association with the 1111 philosophers, No AI, UNO, Chuck Taylor, Dean of the School of the Arts, and UNO, possibly Preservation Hall, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to be asking musicians the question, what's most important to you right now? That's going to lead to answers that are going to give us content that we're going to turn into lots of different things, including a documentary. How do we achieve our goal? We document photography, videography, sound recording, et cetera. We commodify from the content. We can make postcards, prints, books, t-shirts, merch, documentary films, narratives. And then there's also sales and licensing, which is we sell the stuff. We could have subscriptions. You could do Getty Images, just lots of different ways to make money off of content. New Orleans has a global audience. So the slide before just showed the money and the numbers for people arriving in New Orleans. But there are tons of people outside of New Orleans who want to be here and want to connect with the culture that we have here. So if we can connect with the percentage of the people who are coming here, I think we can connect with a greater percentage of people who want to but can't come here. The platform is, we look at like, magic happens when you put coders in the room with artists. And what we're doing on this platform is we're hedging that technology is going to allow us to deliver on this audacious promise of paying lots of revenue to culture bearers and cultural partners. For a comparison of business models, the 504.com would be a combination of a lot of proven business models. Just for example, WWOZ, Defend New Orleans, NOLA.com, Jam NOLA, Dirty Coast Press, Preservation Hall. Elements of how all of those companies make money are available to us on the 504.com. These are the current founders, Renee Benson, myself, and Johnny James II. What all the founders have in common is a strong background in education in the arts. And then, you know, this is a brain trust. Pat Parks is a professor at Howard University in the School of Theater. I've talked to him a lot about stuff. Steve Report is the photographer kind of in residency for Preservation Hall. We have the 1111 philosophers. Jay Evans, she works at Novak, which is a New Orleans Video and Art Center, which, you know, helps filmmakers, people who want to make films and content do that. And Leroy Brown is at Opportunity Hub. And then I'll let Renee take it from here.
Fantastic. So, you know, going back again to our problems page, we know how many people are coming to New Orleans. We know about tourism, and we really want to break into that, you know, $10 billion that's being, you know, brought into the city. And so, but what we really want is to have that number of cultural bearers and the cultural partners that are being paid. We really want to understand and increase the number of cultural partners and bearers who are set up for residuals as well. I myself have worked internationally a lot, so I'm really well aware of the potential of being able to pay artists and pay content creators for their work, as well as it being equitable for the spaces in which all the work is being held. So that would be like the platform for itself. You know, one of the things that we did realize too is that, the payback for year one investors would look like, interest and plus principal by year 5. And one of the key considerations that I'd love to talk about is how we always like bring down our overhead and, filming in New Orleans, for example, and in Louisiana, we have film tax incentives. So that already breaks our overhead into about 50%. And then we're looking at other digital and technology tax incentives for this kind of work. The investment that we're really asking for, and you can see there's a theme throughout, is the $504,000 during the what was the word?
Pre-revenue.
Pre-revenue.
Get it again? Revenue. So we're going into the pre-revenue push, right? So we're trying to be quick learners as much as possible. The ideal investors are those, who love New Orleans and love its cultural bearers and are also connected with institutions that might be able to help us partner on the oral history projects. And then also we're looking for people who are positioned to help with future rounds of financing. A lot of times, we know that networking is really a key item. I love people who have all kinds of currency to bring into the work that we do. And I do a lot of fundraising myself for my art, as well as for the organization in which I am in doing strategic partnerships. One of the things that we really want to tap into is actually the industry, is the global market of people who really, we know jazz is played all around the world, and that in Krakow, in Poland right now, there are people thinking like, how do I give back to the city of Tremaine, the city of New Orleans that has created this work? So we're really tapping into both an industry that exists while looking for a way to really break into, a future audience and a larger audience outside of those that just come to New Orleans. So thank you very much.
Awesome, Renee.
Awesome.
And,
Thank
final
you guys
thoughts,
for sharing.
Caroline?
Yeah, totally. I really like what you guys are doing. I think this is another good example of one that like being really quick and clear on the problem, like great. The creator economy is the lifeblood of New Orleans, like they need to be paid equitably. Awesome. The one thing that you're missing a little bit is I don't feel like I walked away like really understanding what the business model is to be able to get folks paid 70% of the revenue. So like sometimes focus is your friend and like being very clear. I liked the slide of like, oh, it's kind of like WOZ, it's kind of like Dirty Coast, but like those are all doing different things. So being very clear cut of like what you're taking from those business models and like how you're going to make money is good. A slide in general, a lot of times is even like a slide that's like, this is how we're going to make money. And then getting into like, and of that money, 70% of it is going to go to creators and 30% is going to go to the business. In the beginning, I first thought that you guys were creating something for the creator economy in general. And then my feedback was going to be that the 504.com ties you to New Orleans, but it sounds like you're just doing this for New Orleans, which is cool too. But like changing the messaging in the beginning that like this is a New Orleans thing and that's why you've chosen this name, I think would be helpful. Getting into traction of like where you guys are today. And that sometimes can come after the team side of like, okay, what are you building? And your ask slide was great. And sometimes going from there of like, okay, with this money, like, what are you going to do with it in terms of like, what are the goals? Like, oh, we're trying to get to X amount of revenue in X period of time.
That's great.
But yeah, good job.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I think you just converted a lot of people into the Caroline Crumley fan club because I know it's a giant ask for someone to review with as much detail as you've given all of these projects, and I know that we didn't get to some, but I just wanted to like give you a sincere thanks, and I hope everybody realize and appreciate what Caroline has done today for us.
Yeah, awesome. No, great to meet everybody. More than happy to. Can do a follow on like if there's other folks. But yeah,
Okay.
everybody have a lovely Jazz Fest weekend.
Yeah, you too. And for everyone else, I think so. We're going to be talking with Matt Mullenweg, the founder of WordPress, a billionaire investor, in a few weeks. We're also going to be speaking with Joseph Jacks, who invests about $100 million a year. He's going to be the same day that we talked to Matt Mullenweg in a few weeks. And then coming up, I think next week or the week after, I'll send information about the exact date. We're going to be speaking with Bruno Luigi. Bruno is one of my personal mentors. Bruno created an open source company and sold this company and made a lot of money from it. And so he's going to be here. He is, if there's any entrepreneur I've ever met who can clearly say how he's made his money, that's Bruno. I'm going to send an info. This is all happening in May, so May is going to be a big month, and it's going to be more question and answer things. And then coming up next month in June, we really still got to figure out what we need to do to get to the point that in November we're going to have money in the bank for all of our great projects. And so some things that Caroline mentioned today, I think are great starting points. I think honing and tuning Dex into takeaway products is probably a big thing. And so maybe what we'll do is by next month, we'll spend a little bit more time on Dex, and next month, if you all can just like really get that into a takeaway product, we'll focus on that. I'll try to figure out like who would be good to review that. And there are a lot of good funds coming too. So by next month, if you can just like kind of think of that as a takeaway product, what Caroline said is really, really key. And then I'll send an email about all of the other great meetings that we're going to have this month with Matt Mullenweg, Joseph Jacks, and Bruno Luigi. If there's anything else, let me know. Otherwise, we'll sign off. Cool.
Thanks again, y'all.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you. Great job, everybody. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, everyone.
Great job, everyone.
Thank you. See y'all.
One second. Grab an email from the chat. That's the hard part.
Yeah. Take your time. I can also export it all.
I got it. Thank you.
Hi, brother.
Later.
Later, Blake.
Bye, Joseph. Sorry we didn't get to you, but I'll get your thing to Caroline. Don't worry.
No, that's fine, and I can always set up a meeting with her and all that, and like we got plenty going on this month with more pitches, so we're good.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Later.